All right, this is going to give you some brief instructions on how to do worksheet 4F for the line types and line weights assignment. And so it involves a little bit of drawing on your end and showing that you understand the difference between the thick and thin lines and just how to lay out some things using your scales. So the instructions up here at the top of the sheet are to use 3 inches equals a foot scale. So if you take your architectural scale and flip it over to the side that says 3 inches, that's what you're going to use right there. So that 3 inches equals a foot scale. And this is already doing all the measurement for you. So 2x4s are actual size 1.5 by 3.5. 2x6s are 1.5 by 5.5. 2x8s are 1.5 by 7.25. 2x10s are 1.5 by 9.25, and 2x12s are 1.5 by 11.25. So you'll be using those dimensions to lay out these the line work to draw each one of these 2x, we call them 2x, they're board sizes, nominal lumber sizes in section. So let's do this first. I'm just going to give you some things that will kind of make this go a little bit faster. First, you're going to create a construction line and do that with as light a line as you can. So you probably can't see that on the screen. So what I'm going to do is use a red line or a different color so you can see the construction lines, but you want to make those lines as light as possible so that you can barely see them. Let me just zoom in on it a little bit to see if it shows the line any better, or if we can add some lighting to it. Make it even brighter. Or here, let me put my fancy light on here. I think you can see the construction line, maybe not. Let me make it a little darker then. Okay, so I'm going to use purple for construction line, but you want to make it as light as possible on yours with just a pencil like I just showed you. So that's a construction line. And then you're going to take each one of these numbers that you see here and look at the actual size and create another construction line that just shows that depth. So this is representing a full foot. From here to here is 1 whole foot. And these are all the little inches and fractions of an inch that we can measure here. So 11.25 inches would be just shy of a foot. This is 11, so 11.25 would be 1 little tick mark past that inch line right there, that 11-inch line. So I'm going to put a mark here. That's going to be, that shows me the depth of 11.25. And then I'm going to push this up to, if we turn it this way, we can actually see the numbers correctly. There's the 9-inch mark right there, so 9.25 would be right here. I'll just make a dot. And 7.25 would be, there's 7, so a quarter, be the first tick mark past that 7-inch mark. And 6 is 5.5, so we want to go to 5. There's 5.5, be right there. And 4.5 would be, there's 4.5. I might be off the page for that one, so there's 4.5. So now I have these little dots here that are representing the depth. And if you did get your handy rolling ruler, you can slide this rolling ruler down and draw a very light construction line at each one of the dots that you measured, just like that. And what that's doing is showing us where the 12 or the actual nominal dimension is for the height of each one of those 2x's. Now we'll do a construction line so that we just put a little tick mark right in the center, right underneath the X basically. And that's going to represent the center of each one of these. And then from the center, if this is 1.5, we want to go over 0.75 on each side of that tick mark and create a mark. So 0.75 would be 3/4 of an inch. Get rid of the ink on there. So there's 3/4 right there. Because we've got, that's a whole inch. These are 1/4 of an inch. So we're at 3/4. The other smaller tick marks are 1/8. So that's 3/4 of an inch right there. I'm gonna make a mark on one side. And then at the 3-inch mark, a 2.5 inch mark, or maybe makes it easier just to go across and go to 3/4 of an inch on the other side too, because we want 1.5 actually. And now we're just gonna make construction lines this way. And then we have everything we need. You're gonna repeat that process, measure 3/4 of an inch over from that point on either side. So at the 0.75, or at here, and then at the 1.5 inch mark on each one of these, you're going to make a dot for each one. So put this, line this right up on the 175 and mark, and then mark at 1.5, and you'll be showing the thickness of each one of those 2-bys. Once you have that construction lines drawn in, remember I'm using color here for my construction lines, you're going to have light lines. You're going to use your mechanical pencil straight up and down and draw a thick line for the outside edges, representing the thickness and depth of the 2x4. And then you're going to draw with the thin line type. And what I do is I hold my pencil this way and twist it. Thin line across the corners like this. And then lastly, you're going to put the dimensions in here. So this dimension can show up as tick marks. Draw your construction lines for your actual lettering and put in the tick marks. And then you're going to write down the actual dimension of the height of this. So you're going to put in 3.5 inches. And then thickness, we're going to be tricky here because this thickness here is the same. So I'll show you, we can say, let's put our guidelines in there. Let's say 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to write just below that dimension, so I don't have to keep saying the same thing. I'm going to write T, Y, P, and that stands for typical. So typical, every single one of these is 1.5 inches thick, but the depth is going to change. So the only dimension you're going to have to add to each one of these is the depth. So when you're done, I'll show you, well, each one of these should be the correct dimensions, 5.5 by 1.5, 7.25 by 1.5, and so on. And they should have the same consistent line weight. So it gives you lots of practice on something really easy to draw. The bottom part of the instructions are to show you how you can use construction lines to lay out a drawing. So what I'm going to want to do is lay out a vertical line, starting off with, you can use the back of the page if you want to, starting off with our reference vertical line. Then I want to go over 2.5, I'm sorry, 1.5 to here. So this distance from here to here is 1.5. Then I'm going to go over 2.5 and then 2. So I'm just going to memorize those dimensions and flip this over and do that on this side. So we'll do a construction line. That one you can see a little bit better. And then I'm going to go over, and you can use the actual full-size scale for this one. And it doesn't matter if you use mechanical or architectural scale, really. So 1.5 And then I want to go over from there 2.5. And then I think it said, see, I already forgot, then 2. And then we're going to draw a construction line at the bottom and making sure that that's a 90-degree angle. Then we can go up from there, the dimensions we need to know in this direction, so 0.75 and 2.25. So I want to go up 0.75. That's 0.75 in actual size. And then 2.25. And if I use my rolling ruler now and have it go through those points as construction lines, and then go through the points that I created horizontally, I have everything I need to draw that object out. So I'm going to put in the construction lines first, then use my mechanical pencil to draw on the line work. Oops. Press down just a little bit too hard there. And then when we're done, we're going to finish the drawing by connecting this diagonal. And then that is a 2-scale drawing of this not to scale drawing here with the instructions provided. Now you can use mechanical decimal inch, or you can use millimeters and use the different alternating dimensions. So the 64 is 64 millimeters, 2.5 is 2.5 decimal inches, or you saw how I use the fractions. So that's how you're going to complete this. For extra practice, if you would like to put the dimensions on this as well, you can do that, making sure that you pay attention to dimension, line weights, line types, and adding guidelines.